Hello everyone. Welcome to True Tears, English Emotional Stories. I'm so glad you're here. Today's story is about a girl named Emily. For 22 years, she lived in the same house as a woman she called the Maid. That woman was always quiet, always kind, but Emily never gave her a second thought. Until one day, after her father's funeral, Emily found a letter, and everything changed. In this video, you'll discover the heartbreaking truth about a mother's silent sacrifice, a daughter's regret, and the word she never got to say until it was too late. If you're learning English through emotional stories, you're in the right place. Please like this video, subscribe to True Tears, and feel the story word by word, moment by moment. Now, take a deep breath, and let's begin today's story.
My name is Emily. I was born into a world where everything sparkled: silver spoons, polished floors, and smiles that felt rehearsed. Our house stood tall like a castle, filled with the smell of lavender polish and quiet footsteps. My father was a businessman. Sharp. Always on calls. My mother was beautiful, always dressed perfectly, but distant. And then there was Maria. She wore plain clothes. She moved softly. She spoke only when spoken to. Maria wasn't a part of our world, at least not in the way I understood it as a child. She was just the maid. I would call her with a bell. Literally, a silver bell my mother gave me. Emily, darling, if you need anything, just ring. Maria will come. And she always did. With calm eyes, a lowered head, and a soft voice, she'd ask, "Yes, Miss Emily?" Even when I was rude. Even when I threw tantrums. Even when I called her names. She never once raised her voice. Now, years later, I see her eyes were filled with something I never noticed back then: pain. Not pain from work, but the kind that sits deep inside a heart and never leaves. But as a child, I didn't see it. When I turned 22, my world collapsed. My father, strong, confident, always in control, died in a sudden car crash. A drunk driver ran a red light. He was gone before they even reached the hospital. I was in college, halfway through my final year. I flew back immediately. Everything felt like a blur. The black clothes. The flowers. The cold faces of distant relatives. And Maria. She stood at the back of the hall, not dressed in black, but in the same gray uniform she always wore. Her eyes followed me, but she didn't come close. After the service, everyone left. I walked through the empty halls of our house, now echoing with silence. The place that once felt grand now felt like a museum. Then Maria appeared at the door of my father's study. She held a small wooden box. "He wanted you to have this," she said. Her hands were shaking. I took the box, confused. It smelled like him: cologne, cigars, old leather. Inside was a letter. My name was written on the front in my father's handwriting. Emily. There is something I never had the courage to say. Something you need to know now. I hope one day you'll understand why I waited so long. The truth is, you were never supposed to find out this way. But if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there to tell you face to face. Emily, Maria is your mother. I dropped the letter. It fell to the floor with a soft thud, but to me, it sounded like thunder. My chest tightened. My breath caught in my throat. No. It couldn't be. What kind of joke was this? I picked it up again, my hands trembling. I met Maria long before I met the woman you've called your mother. We were young, foolish, in love. We were going to get married. But when Maria got pregnant, my parents threatened to disown me. They said a maid's daughter could never carry our name. I gave in. I was weak. I abandoned her. She gave birth to you alone. Years later, after your adoptive mother and I married, we found Maria again, working as a housemaid. She begged me to let her stay close to you. She said she didn't want anything, no title, no recognition. Just a chance to see her daughter grow. So I hired her. As your maid. Tears blurred my vision. I couldn't read the rest. My whole life was a lie. I sat on the floor of my father's study for hours. The letter still in my hand. Suddenly, memories from my childhood came flooding back. Moments that once seemed small, now felt huge. Maria tucking me in while my mother attended parties. Maria running to me when I scraped my knee, her hands shaking as she wiped away my blood. Maria watching me blow out birthday candles from a corner of the room, tears in her eyes every single time. She had been there for everything. Not as a maid. As a mother. And I never knew. I never called her mom. I called her maid. I ordered her around. Ignored her kindness. Treated her like a shadow. And she never once complained. She loved me in silence. Loved me in pain. And I was too blind to see it. That night, I cried harder than I ever had. Not because I was betrayed, but because I had broken the heart of the one woman who had loved me the most. The next morning, I found her in the kitchen. Maria was chopping vegetables. Calm. Focused. As if the world hadn't turned upside down. She didn't look up when I entered. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. My voice cracked. My hands trembled. She stopped. Slowly placed the knife down. Wiped her hands. Turned around. Her face was unreadable. Quiet. Like always. Because it wasn't about me, she said. It was about you. Your comfort. Your future. I didn't want to ruin it. I called you names, I whispered. I treated you like a servant. You were a child, she said softly. You didn't know. And I was just happy to be near you. But I would have loved you. I would have called you Mom if I had known. She smiled, and for the first time, I saw tears fill her eyes. You did love me, she said. In your own way. That was enough for me. And then she did something she had never done before. She pulled me into a hug. It was warm, familiar, and it broke something inside me. For the first time, I held her the way a daughter holds her mother. And I whispered, "I'm sorry." In the weeks that followed, Maria and I really talked, for the first time. She told me everything. How she gave birth to me in a small clinic, alone. How she watched from a distance as I grew up in someone else's arms. How every birthday she wanted to whisper, "Happy birthday, sweetheart," but held it inside. She showed me an old box filled with memories, my baby shoes, a lock of my hair, faded photos of her holding me as a baby before she gave me up. She had kept everything. Every memory. Every moment she wasn't allowed to live. She had held it all inside for 22 years. I couldn't stop crying. I promised myself that from that day on, I would make up for all those lost years. But life had its own plans. Maria passed away just 2 months later. Peacefully. Quietly. Just like how she lived. They said it was her heart. But I knew it was years of silent heartbreak. I buried her next to my father. There were no grand flowers. No expensive marble. Just a simple stone. And 4 words I chose myself. She loved without limits. Now, every time I visit her grave, I bring 2 things. Fresh white lilies. And the silver bell I used to call her with. But I don't ring it anymore. I just sit. And whisper. "Hi, Mom. I miss you."
If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe to True Tears, where every story speaks to the soul. Thank you for listening.